Hi, this is Ken Parker welcoming you to another episode of Common Ground, the policy roundtable where we bring together a panel with diverse views on issues of concern to Newton residents and try to hammer out some of our differences. For those of you who are new to our show, let's review the rules. First, I introduce a topic. Then we go around the table once, with each panelist expressing a viewpoint. I then select the two panelists who disagree the most strongly and ask them to speak directly to one another in hopes of finding some area of some agreement. At the end of each segment, I give an assessment of how we did at finding common ground and then put my 2 cents in on the topic. This is a special show, but it's a breaking the mold special show in a unique way, which is that for the first time we're doing a special 2/3 of the way. And what I mean by that is this is our Earth Day special. We're talking environmental issues, but there is an issue so important, so pressing, so dominating the local news, or it should be, that we're going to talk about it even though it's not really environmental related. So we've got 2 environmental topics today and 1 non-environmental topic. And we'll get to those in a second. But first, let me introduce tonight's excellent panel. And I'm really, really excited about this panel because it includes 2 experienced Common Ground panelists and a novice, but an experienced novice in that it's someone I've wanted to have on the show for a long time. Let's introduce her first, Alison Leary.
Hi,
Great to have you on the show, Alison.
Thanks for having me.
Alison is the Ward 1 Councilor, City Councilor, former Ward 1 Ward Alderman, right?
Right.
Until December 31st.
That's right.
When the name change happened. And you've been on the executive committee of the Sierra Club.
Yes, I was on the executive committee of the Massachusetts chapter of the Sierra Club for 3 years. I recently just stepped down from that, but I'm still an active member. And I chair the League of Women Voters Environmental Committee here in Newton. And I'm involved with Green Newton as well.
So an environmentalist all around, and so you're the perfect person to have on our Earth Day show.
And my daughter was born on Earth Day.
Wow.
April 22nd.
That is really cool.
Yeah.
Did you plan that?
I did not plan that.
That would have been a trick.
Yeah, that'd be really hard. Anyway, so welcome to the show.
Okay.
We're so happy to have you on.
Thank you, Ken.
Steve, great to have you back.
Great to be here, Ken.
Steve Feinstein is it Feinstein or Feinstein? I always ask you that.
Whatever you want it to be, Ken.
No, but what do you call
Feinstein.
yourself? Feinstein. I got it. Okay. You could have said absolutely right, Ken. Instead, you said whatever you wanted. Anyway, what could that noise be? Anyway, so Steve is a member of the Newton Highlands Area
Right.
Council. Are you run Village Day, right? Is that
I'm organizing Village Day. I'm
organizing
Vice
it.
President of the Area Council in the Highlands. Haven't been doing it all that long. It's my 2nd year, but I love doing it. I love the neighborhood, and I like connecting with people. And Village Day is a great way to do it. So
Terrific. And what is your day job? I know. I mean, I joke because I know what your day job is, but I don't want to describe it because I know there's a little bit of secrecy.
I'm an
associated.
engineer at a local R&D lab.
And a local R&D lab that shall not be named. Okay. And doing things that we are not allowed to know about. All right.
I don't even know about them.
Okay. Well,
I'm pretty sure I'm doing cool stuff, but I'm not totally
you're
sure.
not allowed to know. I understand. It's that secret. All right. Well, we're glad to have you here, and outside of your lab, you can share all your views, and there are no secrets around this table. Anyway, welcome back on the show, Steve.
Thanks.
And Greer Swiston. Fantastic to have you back on the show, Greer. My former colleague on the then Board of Aldermen.
Yep.
Ward 3 at-large alderman. And you are a teacher and a mathematician and a realtor. And whenever we go over what you do, Greer, I feel like we'd be shorter to list what you haven't done and what you don't do. But what's your real estate practice?
I'm at Century 21 Commonwealth. I do, the usual residential real estate, and it's a very, very busy time, and it happens to sit right on top of robotics season, which is sort of my focus this
And
year.
when we say robotics season, we're referring to?
We're referring to the Newton High School robotics team. We compete all through April, And they're actually down in districts right now, so it's very, very exciting. They've got a great robot this year. We've got great kids.
If there is interest in the public in learning more about what's going on with this robotics team, is there a website or anything anyone could go and?
Absolutely. It is www.ligerbots.org.
So Liger, like tiger with an L, though.
Correct, because
Ligerbots, combination of Newton North and Newton South.
Right, we are a
mascot?
lion and tiger combined, so we are the Liger Bots because we are a city unified team of high school students from both North and South. And as one gentleman described us, you know, there is the robotics team and then there's the league that runs like a company. We're the league that runs like a company. The FRC team is a team that not only builds a robot, we market it, we fundraise, we do money management. It's a great experience.
I gotta say, there are a few things I thought that would ever make me wish I was back in high school. But the robotics team, like this, it's just the coolest thing. Anyway, thanks for, I know you're a mentor to the team and you do that volunteering, and so thanks for doing that for the community, and thanks for being on the show again, Greer. Without further ado, let's talk about what our topics are for tonight. We've got three, as usual. The first is the City Council's decision to reject solar panels for the Newton Free Library parking lot. Then we'll be talking about the issue that I think just happened within the last day or two, which I think ought to be front page news throughout the city, which is that the Charter Commission voted unanimously to eliminate the position of ward alderman, or ward councilor as it's now called, and also to reduce the size of the body to 13 members, all of which would be elected at large in varying ways. And the third topic is recycling and solid waste in the city of Newton. So without further ado, let's go to our first topic. Now, as I think folks know, there are city buildings that have solar panels on the roofs, and there are some schools that have solar panels on the roofs, and many Newton residents, in fact, have invested in putting solar panels on their roofs. And that solar energy has the effect of reducing the burning of fossil fuels and reducing global warming and making us more self-sufficient. And recently, the City Council debated a proposal to, in addition to putting these solar panels on roofs, to start expanding to other types of areas. And apparently some of these were approved and some were not. One that was not approved, and I think was somewhat controversial, was the proposal to put solar panels, solar carports in the library parking lot. And it was only about, I think, about a third of the City Council voted for it. About 2/3 voted against it. Maybe there was one councilor absent, I believe. And of course, in this environmental kind of community, the assumption is things like this get approved. So I was very curious to find out why it wasn't approved. And so I think what the topic will be then is whether this is a good thing. And I think to argue that it should have been approved, we have Councilor Leary, who was a proponent of it, one of the, 8 or 9 who voted for it?
8. I was one of the 8 that voted.
Okay, so Alison, please tell us why you voted for it and why you think it didn't pass and where we're headed with this stuff.
Okay. Well, I voted for it because I think we should be putting solar in everywhere that we can. We really need to get off fossil fuels. I would like us to have a goal of being fossil free. I'm not sure what the time frame yet is for that. And I think one of the concerns about the library was that we have not yet had a solar carport. So I think people were concerned about how it would look, especially right there near City Hall in a very well-trafficked area. And that parking lot had...
So it's the aesthetics that people were
concerned? The aesthetics, people were concerned about the aesthetics. And then there were also some trees in the parking lot. Including one 80-year-old tree that was there when the library was built in the early 90s. And the Urban Tree Commission...
Some of us were in government then in the early 90s when it was built.
Yeah.
It's, yeah.
Well, I well remember the old library in Newton Corner. I went to that as a kid. So.
Time flies, though,
Yes,
doesn't
it does.
That was like 25 years ago or something?
The library was it built in 91? I want to say.
It was early. I think it might have been. It was passed. I think just before I was on the board, so it was like passed in 91 and then built in 92 or 93.
Okay.
But I know I was on the board by the time it was dedicated. And I know, you know what, it was dedicated right around the time Ted Mann died, because I remember there was a controversy about whether it could be named after him while he was still alive.
And so he
And so he died just to accommodate that, because he was conflict adverse. No, that's not
Okay.
what happened. But
So where was I, Ken?
sorry, you were talking about the library and why there's someone wanted to save this
Well,
tree,
no, the
80-year-old
Newton
tree, I
Tree
guess.
Conservancy and the Urban Tree Commission were concerned about this tree, and they felt the library had a good potential to have more trees. And they were concerned about does this mean if we put solar here that we're not going to be able to have trees? And it's an area where people would get a full amount of traffic, and they would rather see trees there.
So they recommended against.
They recommended against it as well. And when I went back to the city and I talked to our buildings commissioner, it turned out we could save that tree.
Oh,
and it would only impact the solar capacity by less than 3%.
So the tree wasn't going to be cut down.
The tree was not going to be cut down.
Were any trees going to be cut down?
There were 2 that would have been removed, that were too big to be moved, but they would have been replaced.
So other trees, there were like 6 or 7 or 8 that were going to be moved then?
Total of 7.
Okay.
There were 4 trees, I think, that were not doing well that would be removed and replaced whether or not solar went in there or not. There were 4 trees that were small enough that they could be transplanted, and there were 2 trees that would be removed but replaced under our tree ordinance.
Now the trees that were going to be moved, or were they going to be moved somewhere else on the library lot or to someplace else in the city?
It wasn't clear to me where they would be moved to, but they certainly, there's no shortage of places to put trees in the city. I will say
they're
that.
dying at an
So I
incredible
thought,
rate.
considering it was a relatively small removal of trees, and that we were able to save the mature tree, which I think is really important, because when you're talking about a tree that's 80 years old, that's a whole different story than the
Hard
small,
to
the
move
small.
too, probably.
Yeah. So I thought it was a
You need,
win-win
like
situation.
Godzilla to pick it up. It would have been really hard.
I took the position also that we should be showcasing our solar. I thought it was a good opportunity for people to see what Newton is doing instead of putting it like over in Rumford Avenue, which is another place where they want to do it, where you know you're not necessarily going to see it. And also it keeps
Hard to put a carport there too, right? I mean, on the pile of, or could you?
no
Rumford Ave-
carport,
yeah,
just
Rumford
the
Avenue,
panels.
just-
But we could talk about that because that means the removal of the compost. So that's something else that you have to weigh. But with the carport, it also keeps your car cool and it keeps the rain off you. And there also would be there could have been a stormwater component to it as well. You know, with the rainwater. So those are the reasons why I voted for it. It would have the carbon sequestration of 134. The equivalent of 134 acre forest.
Wait a second, just that one location, 134 acres?
In terms of sequestering carbon. It would be the equivalent of a forest.
What about it? Okay, wow, that's...
In terms of producing actual solar power, it's the equivalent of maybe solar on 5 houses. So it's not, in terms of that site, it's not a make it or break it situation.
So it sounds pretty good. Why do you think 2/3 of your colleagues voted it down?
I think it's because people haven't really seen a carport in Newton, and they're concerned about how people would react to it. You know, and I think it was kind of a little bit of fear of the unknown. That's what I think the most part. And also the Tree Conservancy sent out a letter, you know, that went out ahead, even though I had said, let's try and save this tree. They sent a letter out anyway, and that went all over the blogs. And then it was, after that, it's like I tried to respond to everyone who was concerned about, why are we cutting down trees in the library? That's what you get, as you know. But by that,
You think it was a gross oversimplification of what was going on?
Oh,
the more-
people don't do that.
Well, not on blogs anyway, right? Blogs always have balanced, thorough discussion.
And all I can tell you is that when people, if I had read the Tree Conservancy letter, I would have voted against the proposal.
You didn't
Okay.
read it. That's
So when I
rip
went
that
back
thing
and
up.
told people the information that I just gave you now, they were like, oh, well, maybe it's not such a bad idea. The more information people got, I'm not saying everyone changed their mind. There were certainly people that said,
But
no,
you
it
think
wasn't.
your colleagues would have had access to all the information you had
And
access
they
to?
did. They just, they said, I think for them it was mostly an aesthetics issue. And I just don't agree with that.
So the tree issue wasn't really the primary factor in voting it down?
Not for the councilors, but it was an emotional issue. And you got to tie in the trees to the whole with the city becoming more, there's more tear downs, people are concerned about the loss of trees. In my ward, actually, it's on the Ward 1, Ward 2 line, there's a proposal to put in a storage facility on Newtonville Ave. And that's going to mean taking, the way the proposal is now, it would mean taking down more than 50 trees. So we're losing a lot more trees on private property.
And didn't the city just take down some trees at the Expand Service too? Maybe there's someone
Oh,
here
they
who knows
took
something
down
about
some beautiful oak trees. Yeah, I think there's someone
I
here
might know
who
a little
knows.
bit about that.
Danger, 250 trees
Wow,
were
so
taken
we'll
out,
take
although
it.
most of them
I'm a
were
little-
So
I'm a little confused as to why we're saying the city is concerned about people's reactions to something like this when they, demolish school buildings and people protest. I mean, they're used to having people protest what they're doing.
Right.
I can't see that as one of the top even
Reasons
5 reasons to not do something that should be done.
Yeah, the
And
councilors.
my personal opinion, which you were about to ask me,
you read my mind, Steve.
I've been on the show before. I know how this goes.
And you work in a top secret industry where they, what is the mind reading technology you're working on? There we go.
You're not supposed to know that.
Wait, something came to me.
No, I absolutely agree with Alison. I mean, to me, the concern about how it looks, to me, my concern is that I want people to see that we're doing solar. I don't want it tucked away someplace. I want it right out in the open. I want people to drive by central locations.
Walk
in
by,
Newton,
bike by.
walk by, bike by, scooter by, whatever it is, on their trikes. And to see that Newton is making a statement because it does set a tone. And there will be other examples around the city where we'll have the similar choice, I presume.
Yes.
And I think that there should be some momentum established by saying, look, we believe in this. It's called leadership, if I may use that word. That instead of worrying about what
You'll have to pay the royalties,
yeah.
of course, but you can use it.
So I think we could
So
take this
that's
as a learning and realize I think the city needs to be more proactive when we're making these decisions. Like we should have gone and right away gone to one of the tree conservancy meetings and approached them. As a matter of fact, I'm going to their meeting tomorrow morning.
You mean communication and transparency? That we need
I'm
more
big
of
on
this in
that.
There's
our
me a lot of
government?
royalties
big
to
on
use
that.
those words.
You
but I
weren't
do
saying
want to bring
wheeling and
Greer.
dealing.
So Greer, based on, and obviously this is an issue that Alison knows way more about than the rest of us around the table.
I don't think I do.
But
I know that
Greer,
particular one.
Steve seems to feel that the council was in error in not approving this. I hope I'm not putting words in your mouth, Steve.
I didn't follow it that closely. I did read a lot of the pro-tree messaging, and I did hear a little bit about the reason to do the solar. I didn't quite finish getting down to deciding based on all the details what I would do if I were a councilor. But my bias is towards doing the project because I believe in solar, and it doesn't sound to me like there were very many trees involved, and we're not, like you say, that we're knocking down.
We're cutting
trees.
down hundreds of trees
We're
for other
cutting down lots
projects.
of. I don't think.
Well,
I
I
love
don't think
trees,
that
but
I don't think two rights make a wrong.
Right. So
Two wrongs
Greer,
make a right. Thank you.
Two rights make a wrong,
No,
two wrongs make a right, two rights make an airplane. Sorry.
you're in rare form today.
So
It's amazing what sleep deprivation will
I
do.
don't
Steve.
think I don't know that you're going to get all a disagreement. I might come the closest because I'm not in full agreement. I think the error that happened in this particular process is again communication, transparency. I really do think that the topic in rallying the troops became very overly simplified. I do think that we do need to put our money where our mouth is. We have a tree conservancy policy. I think it is harmful every time the city says, yeah, but this is an exception. Even if it's a reasonable exception, the city should be not making the exceptions. You can give exceptions to our residents, but we should always be towing the line. And if we are preserving trees, we should adhere very closely and not make ourselves an exception. So I do agree with the tree conservancy.
So how would you have voted if you were still on the council?
I would have said, why aren't you putting this in Newton Center? You'd get your visibility, you'd get your carport, and you wouldn't be cutting down any trees.
But in the end, would you have voted for it or against it if this was the proposal?
You're giving me a black and white question again.
Of course I am.
Yes, because I don't think
right,
that's
you
the
don't-
way. They need to be reasonable. This is the
Okay.
problem, is they propose this and it's like
All right,
take
well,
it or
sounds
leave
like
it.
we've got a little disagreement
Well-
around the table. So Alison, Greer, why don't you talk to one another and see if
Well,
you can find common ground?
This city, there is a planned phase-in of all the different solar projects. So there's phase 1, there's phase 2, and there's phase 3. And you can go, I have a list of all the, like, they basically evaluated all of them and I don't have all the details on that. I don't have that information, all that information in front of me. Phase 3 is still a little bit down the line. But I would assume that the Newton Center parking lot, I don't think that's being considered for solar, but maybe that's because it's being considered for something else.
Okay.
But most of the other municipal lots are being considered, including Newton North and Rumford Avenue, and they're planning on putting solar on as
What
many
about that
as-
Austin Street lot? Do you think they'll put some solar
I
there?
think on the building.
Oh wait! Oh, I
don't
forgot
know.
there was some. Oh, geez,
It's supposed to be
I
a
know.
I
building.
think that's taken.
Oh,
That's taken.
I totally forgotten about that.
But-
No,
but also-
that hadn't gotten enough attention.
But my,
what was happening.
my question is, I say this as, whenever you're negotiating and you're trying to work with people, if there are multiple phases, we have so much eyesore blacktop space in our city that don't have trees, that is owned by the city. Why are we picking one that has trees in the way?
It didn't really have that many trees that were really significant. We were able to save the 80-year-old tree, which I think was significant.
I understand,
We're
but
talking
there are
about,
places that have no trees at all.
and they're going to get solar.
And they should be first.
But you could also argue, why not plant more trees there? I mean,
Are
as
they?
well.
Are
well,
they?
the city is finally fully staffed. I know that. I talked to our our arborist the other day, because there happened to be two lots where trees were taken down right behind my house, and then some more trees were taken down just last week, including a huge tree that was probably bigger than this table. So I was talking to him about the tree loss, and I know that the city finally has enough staff that they can go ahead and they're going to start catching up on planting as more trees than we're losing at some point in the next couple of years, I think.
But my
So-
recommendation is, like, when you have this, I will say, in talking to people, and I'm not even a counselor anymore, but I end up talking to people anyway, but the feeling was that it was being so shoehorned in, and every objection was just being countered and not in any way. There was no feeling that there was any give. When, I do negotiations for a living. Sometimes what you need to do is find the least painful way to give, still get mostly what you want, but then then everybody else also feels like they got something.
I'm going to bring Steve into this conversation. Steve, you seem like from the beginning you saw both sides of this. You've now heard both sides of it. Can you help Alison and Greer to find common ground?
Well, I hear Greer's point. She's making a good general point about how to do business in the council, and I understand Alison's point. I mean, I have to say that I'm a little biased. I mean, when I think of, I go to the library plenty. I don't think of the library lot there as being so tree-filled. And
It's not. It's a
not.
parking lot.
It's not exactly. I think to me, it's like maybe got a couple more trees than Austin Street parking lot. I mean, I don't. That's not a green location. It's next to a lot of greenery in front of City Hall, but to me, it's an opportunity to use that to make a statement about solar. But I mean, I would say that. Sure, you have to do a deal. I'm not sure. I think that Greer's making a good point about how to sell this kind of idea. But again, I go back to the thing that the trees were not the obstacle in the end. It was aesthetics. So I'm wondering if there's a way to go to people and allay their fears about aesthetics. What can be done on that point?
Yes, I think one thing is that we'll move on from we didn't get solar on the library carport in the library, so we'll move on. We could certainly revisit it in a couple of years and have it. I think part of it is the aesthetics. People are not used to the idea of carports, but I do think we have to show our commitment to trees as well. And I want to work that venue part of it, and I
Right.
want to be able to collaborate more closely with the Urban Tree Commission, and I know quite a number of people on there, and I'm very pro-tree myself. And also, it's really raised my awareness about all the trees that we're losing, mostly on private property.
Right, a combination of private property, and we are continuing to lose trees that are just not surviving, and we're not replacing them fast enough at all.
Right, we can't even
It
remove
sounds
the
like we've achieved a note of common ground on the lackluster efforts to replace trees on public property in the city. I've got to say that I had the same initial reaction as Alison did when I saw the information that Alison suggested one would have on seeing the information about losing trees. I'm like, trees, I like trees. I don't want to lose trees. And I know that Julia Malachy, who's terrific, was very enthusiastic about trying to protect those trees. And I saw those communications. I'm like, wow, yeah, we got to protect trees. But if you do the math and look at the numbers, I think the net environmental benefit greatly outweighed of what we ended up with. Greatly outweighed the the status quo. So I think what we would have ended up with, I should say, if it had passed. So I think the solar panels, both because of the educational value. I mean, a library, books. I mean, some people still read them, right? Having people on the way to get the books see some real life use of real life work on our way to getting to net zero carbon emissions, at least locally in Newton. I think that's hugely educational. I like the idea of showcasing it, as Alison and I think Steve said. And I appreciate Greer's point that we can prioritize other sites. But I think
just as visible is
my
point.
But what I would suggest is
visible.
what I would suggest is let's not let the perfect be the enemy of the good. Maybe there was a slightly better spot, but I think this was a good project on its own merits. It should have been voted up or down. Yes, I think. And then I totally agree, though, with the point that Greer raised, that the city ought to be complying with its own tree rules. And the fact is, we have a tree ordinance, a private tree ordinance that affects Newton residents and Newton businesses and Newton property owners, but we do not have at present a public tree ordinance that requires the city to do the same thing. And I think it's time that we impose the same standards. I mean, and gosh, I was chair of the Programs and Services Committee, must have been like 95, I think. Former Alderman Mike Lipoff was the lead sponsor of the tree ordinance, and Alderman Amy Sangiello was the co-sponsor, and we sat down and we wrote that. Amy and I did a lot of the drafting of the thing. We worked with Kathy Lester in the law department. We got a great ordinance written. But where we left that ordinance was, okay, this is part one. Let's do the city tree ordinance, the public tree ordinance next. And 1995 might be something around 2 decades ago.
We strengthened the tree ordinance.
Yes, I know, but it still doesn't apply to the city, does it? Or
the city does still have to replace trees. If we remove
on an inch-per-inch caliper basis, the same way that the...
Yes, that's my understanding. The trees in the municipal lot would need to be replaced.
In the same way that the public trees?
Yes. The public trees have to be replaced.
In the same way the private trees?
The private trees do unless it's an exempt lot.
Okay. My understanding is that the city has the ability to exempt its own trees. My information could well be out of date.
They have the ability to be slow in getting the work done and not hiring the people fast enough, or not putting the resources into it.
So are you saying, Alison, that when the city cuts down 250 trees to build an elementary school, it has to replace those on an inch-per-inch caliper basis?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying.
Well, then I would say it is totally out of compliance with that and not subject to the same penalties. Because I know if a private property owner cuts down trees, they will be fined. I don't think the city is subject to those fines.
No,
I think it's more of a guideline for the city.
The private property owner will not be fined unless they're not going to be living in the house for 18 months.
Well, no, I'm not talking about owner-occupied. I'm talking about a developer. Buys the property, cuts down the trees. I know they've been fined. There was one on Homer Street that was fined. The point is, the city, and I think Julia Malachy is absolutely right in pointing this out, is losing significant numbers of trees every year.
Yes.
It was, and I don't even blame the current mayor for this. It was his predecessor who cut the budget for tree replacement considerably. And then what happened was we had some wonderful volunteers who are donating fundraising essentially.
The
2000, but some of those people retired or even passed away, and we are coming nowhere near replacing the trees.
We're getting much
losing.
closer now, Ken.
Okay.
We are. There's over $500,000 in the tree fund right now.
We may be making progress, but the net number, at least from what I've seen from Julia and others, is we are down from when I left the board.
Julia is doing a great job showcasing the problem and showing how we need to do better.
Yeah.
And I'm totally on board with that. And I'm going to be working on reaching out and making sure that the city is doing a better job. Maybe we need to revisit the tree ordinance. We did look at it. I think we were looking at having a part where a significant tree or some like trees that are especially large and difficult to, that are much older. I know Amy was looking at that too, Councilor Sangiolo.
Well, so the bottom line here is, I think we can do both. Do the solar carport at the library and also protect trees and get more trees. I don't think they're mutually exclusive. Let's go on to our second topic, though, because as animated as I think we're starting to get on this one, I think there's room for potentially slightly greater levels of animation on the next topic. So I learned last night, I don't know if anyone else learned before this, that our Charter Commission has cast its first vote on a provision that they're going to recommend to voters. Now, of course, I know it's an iterative process, and so that means that they're going to have a big public hearing at some point on their whole package. And so there is some opportunity, perhaps, based on the input at that hearing, to make modifications to the draft. So this isn't necessarily what's going on the ballot, but their first vote was not some minor thing. It wasn't some non-controversial little thing. Their first vote, and it was a unanimous vote as I understand it, was to eliminate the 8 ward alderman positions and replace them with, and to eliminate one, and then to reduce the number of at-large councilors from 16 to 13. Also taking 8 of the at-large councilors that are currently elected from a ward and reducing those 8 to 5 that are elected from anywhere in the city. So just to make this clear, right now we have each of the 8 wards has 2 at-large councilors who must reside in that ward, but who are elected by the entire electorate. We call those at-large councilors. This proposal would go from 2 of those people to 1 of those people.
Right.
That we also have 1 ward councilor from each of the 8 wards, of which Alison is
Yes,
one.
I am one.
Those positions would be eliminated.
Gone.
Sorry, Alison.
That's all right.
Then they would create 5 new at-large positions that would be elected in a pool, so that where the holders.
It doesn't
could
matter
be
where you
and
live. You
could
could
live
all live on the same block.
Well, so
and that won't
yeah,
stop
so
you.
those
same
are
house.
basically true at-large in the same carport. Right on the library parking lot. No, you can't, because there isn't any there. But
Under a tree.
right under a tree, in a tree, whatever.
In a tree.
But no, so those 5 at-large councilors are basically the same as at-large councilors in every other city that has at-large councilors. Boston's got at-large. At-large usually means you can live anywhere in the city.
Right.
Chicago at-large councilors. Every city that's
Yeah.
so those are
So
like
those 5
standard.
at-large
Would be
councilors
like
are
regular
normal.
at-large councilors. But we'd still have our 8, if I dare editorialize, bizarre at-large from a district councilors, which is
Right.
the bizarre thing we have now for
Right.
both aldermen at large or councilors at large and for our school committee. We're the only place on the planet, as far
That
as I
does
can
it
tell,
that
has
way.
at-large from a district.
Yeah.
But we
That
would then
doesn't even mean
eliminate
anything.
what you'd call our district councilors or ward councilors, formerly known as ward aldermen. Those would be all totally eliminated. So
Yep.
I guess I'm just going to start with a basic question. Is this a good change to our charter? Steve, I'll let you lead this one off.
Let me be subtle. Absolutely not. I think it's a horrible idea. Although, it raises some questions. First of all, there's the workload of the city council, right? We've currently got 24 people that are working on this part-time to full-time, depends on the individual case. But presumably there's a certain amount of work to do.
Yes, there is.
And I think many councilors do multiple things. They're on multiple subcommittees, right? The question is, what happens to all that work? Presumably, it's not a problem that people are too idle. I think people are pretty busy, the people that I know that are doing this work. So one question is, if you shrink the board or council, What happens to that work? That's one question. But the thing that concerns me the most is I'm a big believer in neighborhoods and local representation. And I'm a big believer in elections where new people can challenge incumbents as easily as is reasonable. If you look at the history of Newton elections in the past few decades anyway, this past fall when Jake Auchincloss was elected, I was interested to see if how unique it was that someone who was not known in the city became successful against an incumbent. I think it was
He knocked on like 6,000 doors.
Marcia Johnson.
Yeah.
He spent a bit of money, and he spent a lot of time, and he had an organization, and he was successful. I was curious how unique that was, and when I looked at the data, I found precious few cases where anyone could beat an incumbent in a citywide race. I'm not talking about the ward aldermen, councilors.
There have been a few. Amy Sangelo beat Eric McLeish. There have been a couple, but not many.
Yes, Amy Sangelo. But in the past 15,
whatever that was worth.
Right, well, yeah, you ran multiple. What, 2 or 3 times before you?
Two times.
A couple times for state rep, a couple times for alderman.
Yeah.
Before
yeah.
your name was out there. You were not a newcomer.
Right.
You don't fall into.
I'm talking about newcomers, the people that are not
right.
known. Susan Albright had been on the school committee. Then she was successful the first time running for alderman. I'm talking about in the past 15 years.
She knocked out Jay Sacconi's
father. Yeah, right.
And then Dick Blazar, didn't he come?
But he was a ward alderman.
He's a ward
That's the whole point. The
Oh,
point
okay,
is ward aldermen do
Right.
get beaten.
So
in Ward 5, Bill Brandel won.
beaten,
You know,
yeah.
Bill Brandel
won,
beat
right.
Christine Samuelson, who was an incumbent. But it's easier to run
Ward.
in a ward than it is at large.
It's absolutely. As a matter of fact, I think that it's a good way for someone who's running for the first. I ran for was my first run for office, and I won. And one of the ways I did that was because I'm running at 1/8 of the city. I could knock on everybody's door. I knocked on
Cover
every
everybody.
voter's door. I got the voter list. I knew who the good voters were, and it was that one-on-one, door-to-door knocking that got me elected. I mean, it was a certain amount of hard work, but it didn't cost me a lot of money. Jake is an exception. It's rare that someone spends that kind of money on a local race.
So let's
time.
do a quick thumbs up, thumbs down around the table, and then we'll come in back to the more
Thumbs
detailed
down.
discussion. Greer,
Yeah, I'm a thumbs down on it.
thumbs
too.
down on the
On the proposal that they put out.
okay.
Let me
and
just be clear. Are you asking specifically for this model, or are you
I'm
asking
specifically
for what?
about this model, not reducing the size of the council in general. The
Right.
specific thing that they voted on.
This specific proposal,
that the Charter Commission has recommended unanimously.
right. I am really against it. I am absolutely for reducing the size of the board. Okay, and I've been pretty vocal on how that would get done, especially as we've seen the rise in area councils. I think I've said many times that if we have really well-developed area councils in all the neighborhoods, I don't think we're going to have a problem with the workload, because the area councils should play a really good complement part in government. Newton Highlands actually is probably the only one that really has a good communication with the city in doing that. I really think that a lot of that could be done that way, and I do think that the actual city council should be reduced in size, but I do not think that it is worth losing what I consider the local neighborhood voice, and I'm very against this proposal. I'd rather see us, I hate to say it, but I'd rather see us stay the way we are than lose local representation.
Alison, you have your thumbs up, thumbs down. And,
I have to tell you, I really haven't. I haven't digested it completely yet, and I'm not sure how I feel about it. Because I try and look at both sides of it, and I remember when I was pretty involved with the league, and they were all about reducing the size of the board of aldermen, and I kind of listened to that and how we need to be more efficient, and why should ward aldermen be voted by only a small portion of the city, and they're making decisions that affect everybody. And then I got elected, and not just because I'm a ward alderman, but you listen to the people more. When you're elected, you're there. And I was surprised at how many people really like the model of the ward alderman and the neighborhood voice. Although I tend to take a very more global perspective with my votes. I don't just look at specifically Newton Corner and Nonantum, though I certainly advocate for them. So I'm not sure yet how I would.
And I would speak to why I think that it is appropriate that ward aldermen do get to vote on things at the citywide level, okay? If you just take a look at American democracy in general, okay, we vote on our senator, but our senators vote on national topics, and we expect our senator to represent our interests in our state. That's why we vote for him. But his or her vote is going to affect the entire country. This is the model that American democracy was built on.
Same thing at the state level, state representatives.
Exactly. So I don't think that there's a question on why that model would or wouldn't work. That's why, and so if you were to have somebody, and the city's being inconsistent, because if they didn't believe that neighborhoods matter, then why this really weird hybrid where you have to live in a district but you get voted at large? Either you're at large or you're not.
So I guess I'm gonna up the ante a little bit. It sounds like there's at least some sentiment around the table that this is a bad idea. I'm gonna pose another question, or I'm going to put out my hypothesis on this, which is that this is actually the single worst proposal that the Charter Commission could have come up with. If they'd made a list of every possible thing they could do to the city charter, getting rid of the ward alderman is the absolute worst thing they could do. Why? Because I mean, one of the values that I think many of us in the city, I think the vast majority of people in the city are very concerned about, and I think everyone who ran for the Charter Commission at least gave lip service to, was the idea of making government more accountable. And there is nothing more accountable than a person who is elected directly by a smaller group of people, and all you have to do is knock on 4 precincts of doors and that's what happens if they aren't responsive. Those are the most accountable people. I mean, and I say this as someone who is an alderman at large for 18 years, and at a certain point, if you represent everyone, you represent no one. I only had an opponent a few times over the course of that, and probably only once a serious opponent. It is so hard to run citywide, and people pick and choose their constituencies. Aldermen at large can lose their own ward, the ward they allegedly represent,
and still win,
and win because there are people in other parts of the city that support them.
And it happens.
It happens all the time. It also, electing people at large includes from a district encourages slate voting. Because what you do there is you say, vote for this person from school. The school committee can have a slate. They email it around because they're not truly at large. They're not running against each other. But at the same time, the same electorate votes in all the races. It's so undemocratic. It undermines accountability. And I will say, I mean, I don't think there's any other thing the Charter Commission could have recommended that when we said it, not going to a city manager, not imposing term limits on the city council, not removing term limits on the school committee. There's nothing else I could say this about, but if this isn't what goes on the ballot.
Don't challenge them. I'm sure they can come up with something else.
There's no single other thing that I've thought of that any is in the realm. Maybe there's something else, Greer, but that would make me say this. But with this one provision alone, regardless of what happens with the rest of the charter, I will actively oppose the Charter Commission, the recommendation of a new charter if this is in there. Now, having said that, I think there are smart, thoughtful people on the Charter Commission. I think they all are, and I think that once they realize what a bad idea this is, it probably sounded good at first. If they think about it more, I think they have plenty of opportunity to listen to the public and reverse this decision because they're going to have more hearings. This is a preliminary vote.
It's very early in the
It's very early in the process, and I imagine I don't think it was probably the best judgment to make this their first vote.
But
it's
why
like
was
dropping an A-bomb at the beginning. So
But why was it unanimous? And they have had plenty of debate. I mean, I spoke to one of the commissioners last night, okay, someone I know. And what I was told was that there was lots of debate. There were hearings. They had people from other cities come, other councils. Some of our councilors.
Well, hold on a second, Steve. Hold on a second. They had testimony on this issue, okay,
right,
on whether to eliminate ward aldermen. And I believe, I mean, I know I'm one of many people who they asked to testify. I'm pretty sure that not a single person testified in favor of what they did. So I don't think it was based on public input. So I know they've had hearings.
But what
and
is
they've
the
had people.
input that created this? This is a 9-0 vote on a very controversial topic that's very unlikely to. It's very unlikely to go pick knowledgeable people off the street and get 9 people and have them agree on this. Why is it 9-0?
Right.
I don't
What
want to
is
get
going
paranoid
on?
about that.
I do.
I think they
It's
looked
very
at the
concerning
Interesting
for
to be
those of
paranoid.
you that participated in the testimony because, you know, there's no point in having and collecting testimony if you're not going to do anything with it. You could sit there and you take everybody's input and then just say, I've already made up my mind, but I'm just going to go through the gesture.
I don't think that's what they did, Greer.
I
Okay.
know, but that's what it feels like.
So those of us, anyway, who ran for
know those
the
people.
Charter Commission, I mean,
Yeah.
although I just sort of did a little bit half-heartedly, admittedly, at the very last minute.
But you did pretty well.
Yeah, I came in 10th, so a few more votes and I would have been on
Right.
the thing. But I, you know, I literally, the very last day of signatures, I basically ran no campaign. But one thing that I did is go to the forums, and every single one of us in those lines at the forum said, this isn't about what I think, it's about what the public thinks. So to Greer's point, if the public, if the people testifying didn't want this, and if they continue to make clear that this is not something people want, I think the charter commissioners will have to reconsider and put something on the ballot that people are comfortable with, because it's not about what they want, it's about what the people of Newton
remember,
want.
it gets voted on by the full city, and
Right.
they have to get 50%.
Right, but
For
but,
it to
but
Or
I,
else
but
all
there
their
will be a
works for naught.
well-funded
absolutely,
campaign
but
to get this
I
passed.
do believe
Yeah.
that they have an incentive to put something on the ballot that's got a chance of passing. I think this is a poison pill, and with this in it, I don't think it can pass. It's so undemocratic. It so undermines accountability. And you know, the irony is, to me, the people, the ward aldermen are the ones that, you know, are the most connected to the community, the most accountable. And here's the other thing. People complain, you know, the ballot's confusing, right? There's too many races to vote on. You vote, well, everyone votes in these at-large races. So right now you vote for 16 aldermen at large and 1 ward alderman, that's 17. Under their proposal, you're 13 are at large, so you're only going from 17 to 13. If
And
they-
everybody's voting for 13.
Right, everyone's
Right.
voting. It doesn't even simplify things much. If the goal is to simplify things, keep the 8 district councilors, have the 5. You still have 13.
Right.
You have 5 at large from anywhere in the city, but
Yeah.
then you're only voting for your 1 district
plus
councilor
5
plus
allows.
5 more. You're only voting, and those people all have competition, so there's accountability. By segmenting at large from a district, you undermine accountability. So let's I think. Does someone else have something they really want to say? Because I'd like to get to our third topic. And,
Well, if I can,
okay, go ahead.
their point of view is that it's not undemocratic, that they view democracy as that if the councilors are voting on citywide issues, that they should be voted on by all the people, not just 1/8.
Yes, and Greer already explained why that's
Yeah.
preposterous.
Right.
Right.
Okay. So
Because if we have the entire country vote on every single person that sits on Congress and Senate, we
Yeah,
get
we
nowhere.
have 435
Sure, I
members of the House of
agree with you,
Representatives and
but-
100 senators. Let's all vote on all of them.
but that's, my point is that they are making that argument, and they are aware that it won't be the most popular thing. That there will
Well,
be people
I don't know.
against it, but
Have
they
you-
still are going in that direction.
I don't know that they've thought it through. I'm hoping that they will reconsider, and I'm optimistic because these are. I mean, Josh Krinsman, who chairs, smart guy, lawyer, which is a good thing.
Sure, but you mentioned the forum during the debate. So during the forum in Highlands that my group hosted.
Thank you, by the way. Excellent forum.
Loved
Well attended.
Loved doing it. I wasn't the major force. Wobbin helped. But there was a remark made by one of the one of the people that got elected to the Charter Commission about NIMBYism, okay? And, and saying that we can't listen to everybody squeaking about what they don't want in their neighborhood, basically. Austin Street is a prime example. And that at some point we have to do what's right for the city.
So are you
So
suggesting?
what I'm
hold
saying
on.
is that we have
Just
somebody
to be clear,
on
Steve,
the.
are
Yes.
you suggesting that the members of the Charter Commission would like to replicate Austin Street in other neighborhoods, like, for example, Newton Highlands, and that they think the only way to accomplish that is to eliminate the ward aldermen, the ward councilors?
I'm not saying that.
Okay,
in particular.
good. Phew. All right, let's go on to the next topic. I would really hate it if that's what they were trying to do. That would make me even more annoyed than I already am.
But I
All
think,
right.
and to be fair, any change is going to be difficult, I think.
Oh,
you know?
yeah.
So
Like going to a
Yeah.
a city manager rather than
This
a
is a
mayor.
big change.
That would be a big change. There's lots
big,
of things
yeah.
that would be big changes.
Yeah.
There are big changes that have pluses and minuses, and this one is just simply the dumbest thing they could possibly do, in my opinion. Anyway,
you're going to have some of the charter commission on another show.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, I'm gonna have. I love Josh. I'm gonna have him on, and we'll have it out over this.
Okay.
Absolutely. And I mean, they're great people, as I said. I just think intelligent, well-meaning people can make
Yes.
mistakes.
Bad mistakes.
Right, and this is a doozy. That's all I'm saying.
Right.
Anyway, so let's go on to the next topic, which is waste is a terrible thing to mind. Thank you. So.
You just really amuse yourself, don't you? It's good.
Does this show have a laugh track? I think we could.
Only-
add one,
only
you
the
know, because
panelists,
You've cracked a lot of
there you
good
go.
jokes, and I think there should be.
Yeah, I
some.
don't know. Well, if by the way, if anyone doesn't like that joke, you can email S Feinstein. No. Anyway, so let's go to our third topic, though, which is, of course, solid waste in the city, and again, Alison will correct me if I get these statistics wrong, because she's got much more current numbers than I do. But my recollection is that, I mean, I know, the part that I know for a fact is the part that's ancient history now, which is that Newton was the first community in Massachusetts to recycle newspapers. We were the first to do colored glass. We were the first to do clear glass. We were the first to do plastics numbers 3 through 7.
And all curbside.
And yeah, we were the first to do, to do curbside recycling. We were among the, we used to be an absolute leader in the 70s and
Yeah.
80s in recycling. And we had by far the highest recycling rates in the state. I remember in the 1980s, we were in the 40s, 40 some odd percent recycling of all our solid waste
I
stream.
think we got to 49 at one point.
Yeah, well, I mean,
It depends if you're including, whether you're just saying curbside or whether you're including stuff that people bring to Rumford Avenue, which you can, like, you could include yard waste if.
okay. Based on whatever the statewide comparison charts, we were number one. We were 40-something. Other people, and I don't know what the criteria were, but there was an Excel spreadsheet that we used to look at every year.
Yeah.
We were first. Brookline was second. Concord was third. And then you go on down the list, and we were in the 40s. Other people were in the 30s, 20s. There was like 11% down in. I won't name. I think it was Fall River. They were at the other
Yeah.
end. They were around 10% at the time. In other words, the point is we were number one for a long time. And then it's not that our rate went down, but everyone
Everybody
else
else
seemed
went
to
up.
have
Caught
passed
up.
us.
Yes.
And now you see communities in the 60s or 70s in percentage. And again, I don't know whether you're counting just curbside in those stats. I think it's total solid waste stream.
Well, though the communities that are really doing a good job, like they're over 50%, are almost all pay-as-you-throw communities, which we are not. You could say that we're partial pay-as-you-throw,
We certainly are, because we charge for the second.
but hardly anyone else gets. How many orange bags do you see on trash day?
Right. Well, you don't need them.
You have a
right.
65%. You have a 65-gallon bin, so you really.
So the point is, I think that
And people overflow them.
Sorry, can I clarify?
Yeah.
So are we talking about what people try to throw out or what actually makes it into the recycling in the end? Because
Okay.
there's a lot of stuff that goes into the garbage even though people think they're recycling, right?
Right. That's
okay. So here's the question: what happened? Why? What can we do to fix it? Why is Newton no longer illegal?
I just
leader in
got stuck
recycling?
on what Steve what just said.
I'm sorry.
What do
What
you mean?
you were saying was people throw things into the recycling bin that actually ends up being garbage. Is that what you were saying?
Right.
Ends
I
up
mean,
being
I don't
dumped
know.
in-
I don't know
into
if there's a
garbage.
nationwide
Why?
statistic,
Be-
but 69. Well,
We don't have a lot of time, so let's.
so there are a lot of things that people try to recycle. So let's say a pizza box, and it's very greasy and it's got some cheese in it. That's not going to go through the
You have
recycling.
to
It's
rip
going
the top off if you.
right. So there's a lot of mistakes that are made
Yes.
by people trying to
the
recycle,
city
so
has-
there's some loss there.
The city has done very little outreach and communication about recycling. That's really critical to any program. And it's a matter of fact, in our ordinance that we should be doing that, and we're not. The other thing is right now, we haven't put resources into solid waste and recycling. We haven't had a solid waste manager or a recycling manager for a year.
Really?
Yes.
What
We
happened to
haven't.
Elaine?
Elaine is not doing that job anymore. She mostly did the solid waste contracts.
Right.
Courtney Forrester hasn't worked for the city since last April,
Oh, wow. So
and they
a
haven't
whole year.
replaced them. And now they have, I've been told more than once that they've offered the job to someone, they're waiting for a hire. So we're really kind of at a standstill until we can, we have the staff to actually, get the program going.
Should we hire an HR person?
So
Yeah, that would be a good idea.
we don't have an HR
We don't
person
have an
either.
HR.
Yeah, right. That's kind of a block there. So I just want to get a sense from people around the table quickly about in your personal experience, is there something that you've seen that you think could be done better in terms of recycling in the city?
I've actually feel like what I've seen is I've seen the city go through a cycle. There was a period probably about 10 years ago, actually, probably when a lot of we're pushing towards single stream recycling. That I really saw was good. At least the kids in school, the schools all had those separated. They're really well labeled. The teachers, my son would come home and tell me, this needs to be recycled or whatever. And you saw it in all the schools. I remember one of the first things that I pointed out when I got onto the Board of Aldermen is we were sitting there talking about wanting to do single stream recycling, and we didn't even have recycle bins in the chamber. And
What's it like in the schools now? You've got a son in high school. What do you see?
I have a daughter in high school.
Oh, sorry, right.
Yeah,
Of course.
and actually that's
Not-
actually,
what grade's Parker in then?
he just graduated college.
Oh, wow. Time flies. Okay,
One of the things, the comments that I had is because one of my daughter's friends, she was doing she was doing a project. Sorry, it's very difficult to find the recycle bins. They seem to have disappeared.
The
or
recycling in the
disappearing.
schools is not good. And
Right,
I
and
can't
it's gone
speak for every
downhill.
s-
It used to be
I was
very
just
good.
at Newton North today.
Anyway, well, believe it or not, that was an hour. Thank you all. Thank you so much, Alison,
Okay,
for being
pleasure.
on. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Thank you, Greer. Thank you to our wonderful crew, Brian and our director, and Rich, and everyone else who's working on the show. And thank you at home for watching. We will be back next month, so please join us then, the second Thursday every month, when we try to find just a little bit more common ground. Thanks.
Hey, look, it's those guys.
Let's do those pearly whites, man.
Ooh, cute.
Are you good to drive?
I'm fine.
How many did you have?
I should be fine.
You should be.
Sir, go and step out of the vehicle for me.
Yes, sir. See ya, buddy. Today, Sean's got a hearing. We'll see how it goes. Good luck. So turns out, buzz driving and drunk driving, they're the same thing, and it costs around $10,000. So not worth it.